Hey, thanks for being here. 20 years ago, I took my family for a vacation to Alaska. This is a picture of Exit Glacier in Seward, Alaska. Beautiful, isn't it? In the first section of my novel, Imperfect Likeness, Frank Matsura leaves Japan and goes to Alaska where he gets work in the salmon canneries. How do I know Frank went to work in a salmon cannery? I don't. I may well have made it up. But when I visited the Okanagan County Historical Museum in Okanagan back in 2002, when I was first beginning to learn about Frank, they showed me a photo album of printed photos by Frank Matsura, and among them, in the early pages, I saw pictures that I got the impression they were from Alaska. And that was a surprise to me because I did not know he had been to Alaska. There was nothing about it in Joanne Rowe's book about him, and that was and is my primary source of information about his life. So, when conceiving of my novel, I began to weave Alaska into the early chapters. He goes from Japan to Alaska to Seattle, and then on to Okanagan. More recently, I have seen sources say that he went from Japan to Seattle, and then went back to visit Alaska before going back to Seattle and then moving on to Okanagan. But I liked my plot better. I liked my timeline better because it was simpler and it served the narrative better. So in my novel anyway, he goes from Japan to Alaska for a brief time, then Seattle, and then on to Okanagan. What reason would he have for going to Alaska to work in a salmon cannery? Well, a lot of Japanese people around the turn of the century worked in the salmon canneries. What happened was there was the thing called the Meiji Restoration, which opened up trade to the rest of the world, and that resulted in there being inexpensive rice being imported from other places, like Korea and China, for example. The importation of inexpensive rice from other places devastated the Japanese rice industry. Now, Japanese farming is a communal act. It's not one farmer raising rice on his land. It's an entire village works a large rice paddy to raise rice and sell it to support all of the people in that village. So when this crisis happened, whole communities went hungry. The canneries used this opportunity to send recruiters into Japan to recruit among these newly impoverished Japanese farmers to come work in their salmon canneries. And the reason they were there was partly because Chinese workers, whom they had been using, were harder to come by due to the Chinese Exclusion Acts of 1812 and 1882. Now, the things the recruiters told them were not always completely true. A lot of it was wishful thinking. Easy money, streets paved with gold, that sort of thing. Just because Frank was of the samurai class, that didn't mean he was rich. He was a young teacher in his uncle's school. I believe he is what we would today call middle class. So he would have had to work to pay his way, and there were jobs in Alaska. If you want to know more about the Alaskan salmon cannery industry around this period of time, click this link. There's a clickable link in the description. Type in your email address and I will send you the historical dossier. It tells you what we know about Frank Matsura and how we know it. And in this particular section of the dossier, I'll tell you about what we know about the salmon canneries of that time. In addition, if you buy my book on pre-order, and I'll tell you how to do that not too long from now, you'll be entered into a drawing to win a free signed copy of the deluxe annotated edition, which also includes some material that didn't make its way into the final draft. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned, more details to come.